Thanks so much, Brittany. And thanks to Sarah and Anne. I'm going to give our participants a few minutes to let the questions come in. All questions are good questions. This is a supportive space, so please ask any questions you have. We have received a few already. And so the first one is for Anne Ballard-Sarah from Regina. And Anne, the question is, can a knowledge cafe be used for teaching college students?
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Regina, for the question. I would say yes, absolutely. A knowledge cafe could be used for any different audience and in regards to any topic. In an educational setting, I could see maybe that each facilitator would do a deep dive into a specific topic, or that the knowledge cafe could be used as a space for students to ask questions and have discussions regarding different topics with experts in that field. I'd also love to hear from all of the other participants on the call. If you've used a knowledge cafe for teaching college students, we'd love to hear any suggestions you have. But the beauty of knowledge cafes are that they're very flexible and they can expose people to a variety of different topics, or you could use them to do deep dives into certain topics. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne. There were a few questions that were sent to us privately about platform options for hosting a virtual knowledge cafe if you don't want to use Zoom. I know many of us are aware of some of the security issues that people have been experiencing with Zoom and Zoom bombing. The answer is not that we know of. The Zoom breakout rooms are a fairly unique feature. We'd love to hear from others if they've found other platforms that work well for the breakout feature. But that being said, if you are just looking for a platform for a webinar, oh great, so Kate says Adobe Connect has breakout rooms and WebEx does as well. My personal favorite is Adobe Connect. I absolutely love it. It's a great interface for webinars too. We recently switched to Zoom because our University, Johns Hopkins did. Please check those out as well. And again, we would love to hear from you what your experience is. Another question that we received from Ilya is from Brittany. And the question was, do any of these visual brainstorming virtual platforms or tools integrate well with one another or with a centralized tool?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think they don't integrate with each other per se, but they all use similar integration. So for example, Slack is a big one. They all integrate with Slack fairly easily. So that can be used for I think they all use Google Drive as well. So there are some commonalities in terms of the apps that they do, or the other platforms that they do integrate with. So you could use them across platforms in that way.
Thanks, Brittany. So I'll just give another minute for some questions. And while we wait for those questions to come in, I'll just let people know that Carolyn from IBP has shared a resource in the chat from IBP on hosting virtual meetings. So please check that out. And we will also actually be posting a blog post on our website, knowledgesuccess.org, in the next week from IBP, specifically focused on tips for webinars. And I saw that Nandita from IBP had a question regarding managing sessions with multiple language. For example, some cafe groups might be in English, some in French. Do you recommend hosting all together or hosting separate events? So Anne, I'll let you answer that question.
Hi, great. Thank you for the question, Nandita. I think either is possible. My gut reaction is that hosting them separate would be easiest logistically. With a knowledge cafe, you want to make sure that people have enough options to choose from so that they can select which topic they'd like to learn more about or discuss. So if you were hosting it all together in multiple languages, you would just have a lot of different tables. And also, if you were hosting it all together on Zoom, for example, or any other platform, the plenary would also need to be translated, and the instructions for going to a knowledge cafe would need to be translated as well. So we've definitely hosted bilingual knowledge cafes in person, and it just takes a little bit more planning and extra facilitators that are bilingual, but it is very possible. But if you had the luxury to do separate knowledge cafes virtually, that's also a great option. But I know that a lot of events, at many of the events that we've hosted, the reason we wanted to do bilingual knowledge cafes is so that there could be cross-country and cross-region learning. So it is really important. And we've had translators at each table. In a knowledge cafe setting though, simultaneous translation doesn't work. So you do need to add in extra time to make sure that the translator at the table has time to translate for the various participants at that table. And I hope that that answers your question, and I'm happy to talk about that further.
Thank you, Anne. We had another question come in. This one is for you, Sarah, on the peer assist. The question is there any guidance to helping teams who are thinking about making a good match? And there's a follow-up question to that. Do you recommend doing any technology testing or dry runs so the participants are able to connect audio and know how the platform works?
Yeah, thank you, John. This is a great question. So in terms of the experts, I would recommend choosing experts that have relevant experience, but who don't have too much overlap. So you want there to still be room for creative thinking and sort of outside of the box, inquiries. So you don't want, someone from the same organization or the same team. But that said, you want them, for example, if a country is looking to implement their first costed implementation plan for family planning, you would want the experts to have experience with costed implementation plans, even if they're from a completely different organization or have a completely different background. So I don't know if there are specific guidelines. If there are, we can certainly include them in the notes, or I can put it in the chat. But I don't know of any specific guidelines, but I would just recommend, looking for enough overlap, but also making sure that there's room for creativity. And in terms of dry runs and technology testing, I definitely recommend that. Specifically, with any teams that might be sharing slides or using another platform to integrate, like Mural or something like that, it's important to do a dry run. And so I would say as much prep as you can do and as many advanced calls as people are able to do would be a great idea. Thanks for the question.
Thanks, Sarah. And we have a question from Timothy. And hi, Timothy, it's great to see you. The question, I have a feeling all of our speakers will have an opinion on, but Sarah, maybe I'll ask you to answer first. And Timothy's question is, do we recommend using animated videos during a share fair to explain complex issues?
I would definitely say yes. And hi, Timothy, it's great to see you. I think videos are a great way to explain complex issues in a really short amount of time, specifically if they're used with animation or with photos and something that can really create context. So I would definitely recommend doing that. And speaking of animated videos, there's a great video on how to do a peer assist that we included in the resource list, and I recommend watching that if you're interested in doing a peer assist. And there are a number of other ones as well. And for those of you who create videos, we definitely recommend creating them if they don't already exist on some of your favorite knowledge management approaches.
Thank you, Sarah. Well, I'll just give one final minute for any last questions. And I just want to thank you all for joining us. I see a lot of familiar names here again and a lot of familiar KM experts. So we appreciate you both asking your questions and providing your own answers and experience in the chat box. You can see on the screen right now, we've got in our slides going that there is a screenshot of our website, knowledgesuccess.org, our trending news and knowledge page, and that is where we post interesting articles both on knowledge management approaches, but in particular on family planning and reproductive health. So if you are an FPRH professional joining us today, we hope you'll come visit our website and read both our posts and the posts from your peers in family planning and reproductive health. I'd like to thank our speakers, Sarah Harlan, Ann Ballard-Sarah, Brittany Getch, and our administrator, Lindsay Mitchum. We heard some really interesting things today. Some of the highlights include that you can use knowledge cafes when you want participants to be exposed to and discuss several topics in a conversational format, that peer assists are useful for workshops or meetings where you want one team to share insights or lessons learned with another, that there are a ton of free platforms out there to bring your visual brainstorming to the virtual space. And finally, that even when you overplan, things happen like you saw today, but don't let that stop you from giving a virtual event a try, and let us know how your event goes. We will send you a recording of today's webinar. We will also send you a copy of our presentation. If you are subscribed to our emails, and you can sign up on our homepage, knowledgesuccess.org, you'll receive a notification when we host our next webinar. Thank you all so much for joining us, and we will see you virtually again next time. Take care.